Brasilina and Largo be your guides as we delve into the depths of our collective past, unearthing secrets and unraveling mysteries.
Greetings, fellow seekers of wisdom and wonder. Welcome to Largo's Lowdown, where we use the LAIR philosophy to deep dive into myths, legends, and pop culture, uncovering hidden connections to our personal narrative. What do a 1930s pulp hero and the 47th President of the United States have in common, you might ask? More than you think. In our latest installment of Retro Nuevo Investigations, we explored the Man of Bronze, Doc Savage. But as I examined his legacy, I got a weird idea. Doc Savage was designed to exemplify the perfect leader, a forward-thinking genius, a world-saving adventurer, and a justice-loving defender. Donald Trump, on the other hand, well, he's a real-world figure, leading a movement that claims to be all about reviving strength, self-reliance, and national greatness. So today, we're asking a question that nobody else is asking, probably because it sounds a little insane. Does Donald Trump's MAGA philosophy align with Doc Savage's oath? Could it be that a fictional hero's moral code that was written almost a century ago still holds relevance in today's political climate? I think we should break this down LAIR style. We're going to learn, analyze, investigate, and rewrite our understanding of ethics, integrity, and the myth of the perfect leader. So buckle up, true believers. This one's going to get a little weird. All right, folks, before we dive into today's lowdown, let's get something straight. This is a thought experiment. This is not about pushing a political agenda. This is not about blind praise or blind criticism. This is about comparing a fictional hero from the 1930s to a real-world political movement and seeing what we can learn. It's about how stories influence culture and how real-world figures can sometimes resemble the archetypes we see in myths, legends, and yes, sometimes even in pulp fiction. We're not here to start a political brawl in the comments. We're here to explore ideas, challenge perspectives, and hopefully spark some interesting conversation. So whether you love Trump, hate Trump, or just wish politics weren't so crazy, take a deep breath, grab a tasty beverage, let's have some fun with this, okay? Good talk. Tasty beverage. Okay, so here's what I first noticed about Donald Trump and Doc Savage that led to this thought experiment. We've got two larger-than-life characters who are both seen as disruptors of the status quo, inspire fierce loyalty, controversy, and an unwavering belief in their mission to fix what's broken. You could argue that Doc is the ideal, while Trump is the art of the deal. At the end of the day, storytelling and real life feed into each other, and when you compare them, you can often learn something deeper about yourself and the world you live in. So, if you're intrigued, let's jump into the lowdown.
Learn. Immerse yourself in the story.
For those of you unfamiliar, Doc Savage is the pulp hero who set the stage for Superman, Batman, Indiana Jones, the G.I. Joe Adventure Team, and many, many more superheroes and adventurers. If you want a more detailed look at the doc, check out our Retro Nuevo investigation, linked in the description. Doc Savage was created in 1933. Times were tough and people needed hope. They wanted to believe in a hero who was strong, smart, and utterly incorruptible. Clark Savage Jr., aka Doc Savage, was that hero. He was the pinnacle of human potential. He used his knowledge, resources, and strength to help others fight injustice. His guiding principle was his famous oath, which we'll break down in a moment. But first, I want us to shift gears from 1933 to the present day. Let's take a look at Trump. Donald Trump's return to the presidency in 2025 wasn't just a political comeback. It was a cultural phenomenon. After an upset in the 2020 election, impeachment proceedings, multiple legal battles, and even assassination attempts, most politicians would have just faded into obscurity. But Trump isn't most politicians. Instead of retreating, he rallied his base, launched Truth Social, built an alternative media alliance, and turned MAGA into something bigger than a campaign. It became a movement. And in November 2024, that movement secured a divisive and decisive victory. The 2024 election results were pretty astounding for modern elections. Massive voter turnout from working class Americans disillusioned by the policies of the Biden administration. Donald Trump secured 312 electoral votes, about 50%, compared to only 226 votes for his Democratic opponent. He has the popular vote with a lead of 2.5 million nationwide and victories in all 7 swing states. This hasn't been done in quite a while, especially by a Republican. Republicans also gain control of Congress with a strong majority that's going to forward Trump's agenda. They emerged victorious not only in the House of Representatives, but also in the Senate. This gives Trump fewer obstacles in proposing and passing federal legislation. So this wasn't just a win in November. It was a political reckoning. So we have 2 men with bronze complexions on a mission. What else do these guys have in common? Both were shaped by crisis. Doc Savage was created during the Great Depression and the rise of fascism in many parts of the world, a time when people needed a hero who stood for justice, discipline, and scientific progress. Trump emerged as a political force during economic stagnation, cultural division, and globalist overreach, a time when millions of Americans wanted a leader who stood for sovereignty, strength, and economic prosperity. Both of these characters reject traditional power structures. Doc uses his mind, skills, and resources to help others operating outside the system. Trump ran as a political outsider, disrupting the establishment and governing against the entrenched bureaucracy in Washington.
Analyze, dissect the meaning beneath the surface. The gears in my head are turning, my circuits are sparking with excitement.
So, how did we get here? How did Make America Great Again go from a 2016 campaign slogan to a cultural and political force? Well, populist revolt. MAGA represents working class Americans who feel ignored by political elites, globalist policies, and corporate influence. Economic nationalism. A push for stronger borders, energy independence, and American manufacturing. Media disruption. Traditional media lost credibility, so MAGA created its own ecosystem of news sources, podcasts, and social networks. Policy over personality. Trump's leadership may be divisive, but his policies on the economy, energy, and foreign relations resonate with millions of Americans. By 2024, MAGA wasn't just about Trump. It became a broader ideology with an idea towards America's future. And now Trump is back in office. He's leading the country with a stronger team, a clearer vision, and a mandate from the voters to restore his original 2016 agenda, but now with even more passion. What does it mean to be truly disciplined, just, and unwavering in the face of adversity? I want to give a shout out to friend of the LAIR, at Andy in Indy. He made this observation on the latest Retro Nuevo investigation about Doc Savage. I'll quote Andy here. Doc Savage's oath is primarily based on the philosophy of Stoicism, leaning more towards Seneca's Letters to a Stoic than Marcus Aurelius's writings. And he's right. At its core, Doc's oath is about self-discipline, justice, courage, and wisdom. And these happen to be the four cardinal virtues of Stoicism. The four Stoic virtues and their connection to Doc Savage are pretty straightforward once he pointed this out to me. Wisdom, or prudence, is making the right choices based on reason and knowledge. Justice, doing what is fair and right regardless of personal cost. Courage, or fortitude, facing challenges and adversity without fear. Discipline, or temperance, practicing self-control and living with purpose. Doc Savage lives by all four virtues. His entire existence is a pursuit of physical, mental, and moral perfection for the benefit of others. So, now that we've laid this groundwork, let's break down Doc Savage's oath and see if these Stoic ideas compare with some of the MAGA philosophy. Let me strive every moment of my life to make myself better and better to the best of my ability, that all may profit by it. Let me think of the right and lend all my assistance to those who need it, with no regard for anything but justice. Let me take what comes with a smile, without loss of courage. Let me be considerate of my country, of my fellow citizens, and my associates in everything I say and do. Let me do right to all, and wrong no man. Now let's break down this oath line by line and compare it to the stated goals of the MAGA movement. Strive to make myself better and better so that all may profit by it. Does this align with MAGA? Well, Trump's economic policies focus on self-sufficiency, tax cuts for working-class Americans, deregulation, and incentives to bring businesses back to the U.S., and an emphasis on the American dream through hard work. So his messaging often centers around personal responsibility and self-improvement, encouraging entrepreneurship, manufacturing, and energy independence. So where does it differ? Well, Doc Savage's self-improvement was deeply altruistic. His growth wasn't for personal gain, but for the betterment of humanity. MAGA's narrative skews towards individual and national self-interest rather than uplifting society as a whole. Lend my assistance to those who need it with no regard for anything but justice. The MAGA movement champions justice for working-class Americans, promoting policies aimed at job creation, economic revitalization, and border security to prevent perceived exploitation of the system. Trump has often framed himself as a fighter for forgotten Americans, standing against political elites, globalist policies, and economic policies that benefit corporations over citizens. Doc Savage's justice is impartial. He helps anyone in need, regardless of race, nationality, or political stance. MAGA's version of justice is more nationalistic, prioritizing Americans over non-Americans, which means some groups will benefit more than others. Take what comes with a smile without loss of courage. MAGA has prided itself on perseverance against political shenanigans, media bias, and what they perceive as unjust systems. Trump's resilience in the face of opposition, from impeachments, lawsuits, and constant media scrutiny, is seen by his supporters as proof of his unwavering courage. Doc Savage's courage was about self-sacrifice. He endured hardship without complaint and focused on helping others, not retaliating against enemies. MAGA's fighting back mentality often manifests as aggression against political adversaries, whether through rhetoric or policy. Doc's courage is quiet and selfless. Trump's courage is often performative and very confrontational. Be considerate of my country, my fellow citizens, and my associates in everything I say and do. Well, I think this aligns pretty well with the MAGA patriotic messaging. Being considerate of country, civic responsibility, respect for the flag, law enforcement, and national pride. Trump's policies on protecting American workers and opposing globalist economic policies can be seen as an effort to be considerate of our fellow citizens. Where it differs is Doc Savage's consideration extends to how others he speaks and interacts with. Trump's rhetoric is very often inflammatory, divisive, and very unapologetic. While Doc led with respectful discourse and diplomacy, Trump's style is more confrontational and combative. Do right to all and wrong no man. Trump's policies on economic opportunity, law enforcement, and border security are framed as doing right for the majority of Americans. Many of his supporters view his presidency as an effort to restore fairness, particularly in economic and legal matters. But Doc Savage's oath is about universal goodwill. It doesn't distinguish between nationalities, political ideologies, or personal allegiances. MAGA's hardline stance on immigration, social issues, and international relations often it contradicts the inclusive spirit of Doc's philosophy. So, is MAGA a real-world manifestation of Doc's moral code? Does align in several ways: self-improvement and reliance, commitment to justice, though maybe defined differently, fighting against perceived injustice, patriotism and loyalty to country. Those are all pluses. But it does differ in several ways. Doc's justice is universal, MAGA's is nationalistic. Doc is diplomatic and respectful. Trump and the MAGA movement is often confrontational. Doc puts humanity over ideology. MAGA often prioritizes ideological loyalty. So, does this comparison still work? Or am I just grasping at similarities between two bold ideologies? I don't know. Maybe Trump isn't the man of bronze for our era. Maybe we need to be looking at someone else, like The Apprentice.
Investigate, question, and explore further.
Doc Savage didn't work alone, and neither is Trump. Both surrounded themselves with highly specialized individuals, each bringing their own expertise, skills, and convictions to the mission. I think we should take a closer look at JD Vance. Could JD Vance go from Trump's political understudy to the next great leader, maybe in 2028? Let's analyze his potential and see how he measures up against the Doc Savage archetype. For those who haven't been keeping up, JD Vance is Trump's vice president and a rising star in American politics. And he's not your typical politician. He's a former Marine, a venture capitalist, and the author of Hillbilly Elegy, a book that examined the struggles of working class Americans in a rapidly changing economy. His journey from poverty to Yale Law School to the Senate and now the White House, it mirrors the self-made hero narrative that resonates with many Americans. In many ways, I think the comparison with Doc Savage works better with Vice President Vance. Doc Savage was a strategic genius and a brilliant strategist. JD Vance is legally and financially sharp. Not a scientist, but he is deeply analytical and strategic. Vance served in the Marine Corps, where he was deployed in Iraq as a military journalist. This experience adds a layer of martial knowledge and discipline, which could be compared to Doc and his Fab Five. They all served in World War I. Vance graduated from Yale Law School and has a background in venture capitalism and law. He co-founded Narya Capital, a venture capital firm based in Cincinnati. Doc's Hidalgo Trading Company might be seen as a 1930s form of venture capitalism. We'll get into that in a minute. Vance has shown an understanding of the importance of maintaining supremacy in the ever-advancing field of artificial intelligence. This is similar to Doc's forward-thinking ideas about the technology of his day. Vance is very outspoken about his conservative views. These views align with the traditional and conservative values that are reflected by Doc and members of the Fabulous Five. Vance converted to Catholicism in 2019, influenced by Peter Thiel, after being raised in a conservative evangelical Protestant environment. This religious background adds a layer of personal depth and a moral compass, and that could be compared to the ethical and moral standards upheld by Doc Savage and his team. So overall, while Vice President Vance currently does not possess all the qualities and expertise of Doc Savage, he has the potential to develop and expand his skills and knowledge in various areas. He's somebody to watch. While researching episodes for Largo's Lowdown, I often get pulled into related rabbit holes. I think most folks overlook the significance of JD Vance's background as a venture capitalist. So, let's take a side trip down this rabbit hole of innovation and see how it relates to the overall narrative. Much like modern venture capitalists, Doc Savage uses his vast wealth to fund research, innovation, and high-risk operations. His Hidalgo Trading Company develops cutting-edge technology, logistics networks, and some experimental rehabilitation techniques. So instead of investing in startups, Doc invests in his own brand of world-changing innovation. Venture capitalists don't just throw money at problems. They strategically deploy capital where it will be most effective. Doc Savage does the same. He doesn't hoard his wealth or use it for personal luxury. He reinvests it in tools, technology, and infrastructure that allow him to combat threats on a global scale. His financial independence ensures he's not bound by governments, corporations, or external investors, allowing him to act ethically and efficiently according to his own moral code. Venture capitalists bet on people, not just ideas. They invest in the best minds, ensuring their companies have the greatest chance of success. Doc Savage does something similar by recruiting the Fabulous Five. They're experts in chemistry, engineering, law, medicine, and archaeology. He puts them in positions where their skills will thrive. And it's very similar to what a tech startup does when they're bringing in elite talent. Doc's team isn't a bureaucracy. It's a lean, highly skilled organization where everyone has a very clear role. Venture capitalists aren't just in it for the short-term profits. They often have big, disruptive goals. Doc's mission is global. He's not just about solving individual crimes. He's tackling big picture problems, including corruption, mad science, and global threats. His wealth allows him to be proactive. Just as venture capitalists fund moonshot-type projects, Doc funds world-saving adventures that others wouldn't dare to attempt. Doc doesn't just fight bad guys and call it a day. He reinvests his knowledge, wealth, and inventions into future-proofing the world. His technology, infrastructure, and training systems ensure that even if Doc disappears, his legacy continues, just like a successful venture capitalist shaping the future through innovation and investment. So, is Doc Savage the prototype for today's venture capitalists? He may not be running a Silicon Valley startup, but his financial strategy, team building, and global mission sure looks like an early version of venture capitalism to me. But what do you think? When JD Vance co-founded Narya Capital in 2020, it was more than just another venture capital firm. With its name inspired by J.R.R. Tolkien's Ring of Fire, Narya symbolizes leadership, resilience, and the power to reshape the future, qualities that align with Vance's growing role in American politics. Fast forward to today. JD Vance is the Vice President of the United States, following a meteoric rise from venture capitalist to U.S. Senator and then to Trump's running mate in the 2024 election. His transition from tech investor to political powerhouse raises an intriguing question. Does Narya Capital function as a modern-day version of Doc Savage's Hidalgo Trading Company, an independent financial powerhouse funding a broader ideological movement? Let's uncover the hidden connections between venture capital, leadership, and the pursuit of power. At first glance, Narya Capital and Hidalgo Trading Company seem worlds apart. One is a real-world investment firm, the other a fictional front organization for a pulp-era superhero. But their functions and strategic importance share striking similarities. As we just discussed, Doc Savage's Hidalgo Trading Company was more than just an import-export business. It was his mission's economic and logistical backbone. But what is Narya Capital? Unlike traditional venture capital firms chasing the next tech unicorn, Narya focuses on investments that align with conservative, nationalist, and populist ideals, like backing disruptive tech, investing in Rumble, a free speech video platform, and Anduril, AI-powered defense and weapons tech. There's a political and ideological alignment with Narya, a network of investors aligned with Trump's MAGA movement, drawing support from figures like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and Blake Masters. Narya seems to be a hub for nationalist economic strategy, funding US-based innovation, infrastructure, and defense in line with America First policies. So, does this raise any kind of an ethical dilemma? Elected officials, especially high-ranking ones, are expected to distance themselves from private business dealings to avoid conflicts of interest. Vance has stepped away from active management of Narya Capital, but the firm continues to thrive under his original vision, with Peter Thiel, Blake Masters, and other conservative Silicon Valley investors keeping the mission alive. Even if Vance isn't steering the ship, Narya Capital remains deeply intertwined with the MAGA movement and Trump's second-term agenda. We should talk about Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is a billionaire mastermind actively shaping geopolitical and technological landscapes. He's a kingmaker in both politics and technology. He seeded Vance's career, backed Trump's allies, and funded defense startups reshaping modern warfare. He's a big-picture thinker who prefers operating behind the scenes while influencing major cultural and technological shifts. Thiel encourages his protégés, like JD Vance and Blake Masters, to be forward-thinking disruptors. This rabbit hole goes a whole lot deeper, but this comparison isn't about conspiracy theories or tinfoil hats. It's about leadership, vision, and the power of strategic investment. I just wanted to highlight how fiction and reality do intertwine in some very unexpected ways. So here's the key takeaways from this rabbit hole. Money isn't just power, it's influence. Venture capital is the new political power. We're seeing a shift where private capital funds movements, not just businesses. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about venture capitalism and how it intertwines with geopolitics. It can be a little interesting. Okay, out of the rabbit hole, now on to team building. Doc Savage's Fabulous Five wasn't just a team of random specialists. They were the best in their fields, handpicked for expertise over loyalty. They weren't just yes men. They debated, strategized, and challenged Doc, providing strategic solutions and enhancing his leadership rather than merely reinforcing his decisions. Trump's newly assembled cabinet and key allies form a diverse coalition of established politicians, media personalities, business leaders, and ideological outsiders, each playing a very unique role. They don't agree on everything, but they all see value in the Make America Great Again ideology. Trump's team covers major domains: foreign policy, national security, technology, law, and infrastructure, with a mix of brains, brawn, and strategy. This alliance reflects Doc Savage's ability to organize specialists. Trump's team includes loyalists and independent thinkers, but many were chosen for their ideological alignment rather than their willingness to debate him. Unlike Doc's team, who often challenged their leader, ensuring objectivity in decision-making. So, their ideological diversity, is it a strength or is it a liability? Trump's mix of mavericks could either lead to innovation or chaos. They may clash, leading to internal power struggles. So here's a little food for thought. Does Trump's inner circle function similar to Doc Savage's team, where each member enhances leadership through expertise, or does it operate more like a populist league of mavericks, where loyalty and ideology outweigh debate and strategy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Rewrite. Take your new knowledge and rewrite your understanding of the world. How does this change your perspective? Can you apply these myths to your life?
So, after comparing these two men of bronze, their missions, and their teams, here are the key things that I think we should try to rewrite in our own mythos. 4 points. First, the power of storytelling in leadership. Stories matter. They shape how we see leadership. They define what we consider heroic. And they influence our expectations for the people we put in power. Whether it's Doc Savage in fictional adventures or Donald Trump in the Oval Office. We, as a society, look for strong figures to inspire us in uncertain times. If there's one thing we've learned from Doc Savage, Trump, and leadership history in general, it's this. There is no such thing as a flawless leader, and that's okay. Every leader, from George Washington to Teddy Roosevelt to Trump, has their strengths and weaknesses. Some are bold and charismatic, some are intelligent and strategic, some are tough and unyielding. But no leader is everything. And more importantly, no leader can do it alone. Doc Savage and Donald Trump are team builders. They both have diverse, specialized, strong-willed individuals with different backgrounds and expertise, willing to challenge them privately, but still support the mission. So the question you have to ask is, who is in your inner circle? Are you surrounding yourself with people who challenge you, or just people who agree with you? Are you building a team of diverse perspectives, or just an echo chamber? Are you open to learning from others, or are you convinced that you have all the answers? No great leader, fictional or real, succeeds alone. So whether you're leading a business, a community, or even just your own personal family, your allies that you choose wisely. Lastly, what is your personal code? For me, it's the LAIR philosophy. It's what I try to live by, and it shapes how I think about the world. But we should ask ourselves, and we should do this often, what do you stand for? What are the values that drive your decisions? What's the oath that you live by? Because at the end of the day, no leader, no president, and no hero is going to save you. The real power is in how you choose to lead your life. All right, LAIR lovers, here's your challenge for this episode. Pick a leader, real or fictional, who inspires you. What are their strengths and what are their weaknesses? How do they compare to other leaders? What lessons can you learn? And then take all that and rewrite. Those lessons can be applied to your personal journey. And most importantly, drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going. Do you agree with the comparisons we made in this episode? Do you strongly disagree? Do you have a totally different take? I would like to hear your insights. So let's talk about it.
So, LAIR lovers, stay curious, stay mythtastic, and keep exploring the fabulous LAIRness of the universe.
Thanks for joining me on this Lowdown. Whether you're Team Doc, Team Trump, or you're just here for the rabbit holes, I hope this breakdown gave you something to think about. If you enjoyed this thought experiment, hit that like button, subscribe, and support us on our Ko-fi page so we can keep making content like this. Please remember, LAIR lovers, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop rewriting your own story. Until next time, welcome to the LAIR.